Hi everyone, my name is Anjana Nair. Today I am here to discuss with you about the topic home environment, parenting, and the emotional attachment towards family members. So today we will be dealing with a PowerPoint presentation. So along with that I will be explaining the points. It is all about the home environment, how it affects the child's behavior, learning, etc. And also about parenting, what is parenting, types of parenting, which is the best among them, about positive parenting, and then about the attachment, emotional attachment towards the family members, what is family, what is attachment, and some tips to improve the attachment towards the family members. So it's all about these topics. So let's start the PowerPoint. As I already mentioned, the topic is home environment, parenting, emotional attachment towards family members. So let's start with home environment. What is home? Home, it is a place where we live. It is the emotional warmth shown by the parents when they interact with their children. It is a provision of stimulating and learning experiences in the home and the physical surroundings such as safety of play areas and cleanliness. Now we will see about the child development. If the home environment is an enriching and stimulating one, we will get the love, emotional support, and opportunity for learning and exploration. Hence, it fosters for the healthy growth and brain development of the child. So, for the child development, a healthy and good home environment is very essential. Now, how does it affect the behavior? So the home environment can influence a child's or a person's behavior and motivation to act. The example is that several results has shown that the rooms with bright light, whether it is natural or artificial, it can improve the health outcomes such as depression, agitation, and sleep. So we are always recommended to use bright lights in our room, or to paint the rooms with bright colors like white, like dim colors, off white, light, not the dark colors, because these light colors can give a positive attitude for us, like it will reduce our depression, agitation, etc. So this home environment will affect the behavior. Now how does it affect learning? As a child grows beyond the babyhood, from like infancy to adulthood, a positive home environment provides good social interaction, attention, activities which promote the development of positive attitude towards learning. So that is, it helps in developing good social interactions. If the home environment is good, then the interactions with other peoples, that is our life in social life, will be a better one. Like other in attention and in our other activities, it will be helping us, and hence in total it will help the child in learning. Next is parenting. What do you mean by parenting? Parenting means it is the activity or process of bringing up a child as a parent, or we can say that it is a process of promoting and supporting the physical, emotional, social, and intellectual development of a child from infancy to adulthood. We all know that this definition of parenting, that is the our overall development of a child throughout his life. The activity of bringing up a child, that is called as parenting. Now, what is good parenting? A good parenting mainly focuses on encouraging a child rather than just praising him. Like, it is very easy to praise a child, but instead of praising, a good parenting focuses on encouraging the child whenever he does something good. And it focuses on consequences rather than punishment. Instead of just punishing a child for what he did wrong, we are explaining about the consequences it will bring. And a good parenting focuses on cooperation rather than obedience. Instead of expecting an obedient child, like without questioning, just be obedient. Instead of following that, they believe in cooperating with the child, a good interaction with the child. This ensures parenting matches the times in which we live. So in this era, this type of parenting is very essential. Now, how important is parenting? Parenting helps the child exhibit optimistic and confident social behaviors. Parenting is a very important matter. It is a very important factor that will affect the child's behavior and like how they behave towards other people, like the social behaviors and how optimistic they are. And a healthy parent involvement and intervention in the child's day-to-day life lay foundation for better social and academic skills. So the same like for a child to behave a better social and academic skills, the parent should show more involvement and interest in the child's day-to-day life activities. The next is parenting styles. There are basically 4 types of parenting. The first one is authoritative parenting. Second one is authoritarian parenting. Third is permissive parenting. And fourth is uninvolved parenting. Authoritarian parenting means the parents are highly responsive and highly demanding. Second one is authoritarian or disciplinarian parenting, in which parents will be exhibiting high demandingness and low responsiveness. Third one, permissive or indulgent parenting, in which parent will be exhibiting low demandingness and high responsiveness. Fourth one, uninvolved parenting, as the name suggests. The parents will be having low demandingness and low responsiveness. So the authoritative parenting, if you are considering more about it, they are responsive to the child's emotional needs while they are having high standards. So even though they are having high standards and high demands from the child, they are also responsive to the child's emotional needs. They set limits and are very consistent in enforcing boundaries. Now talking about the authoritarian or disciplinarian parenting. Parents require complete competence, or they want a blind obedience from the child. That is, their demands are high, but they are less responsive to the child. They need a blind obedience from the child. So although both the authoritarian and authoritative parents place high demands, so both these types of parenting, the demands are high on their children, but they are different in what they try to control. Both the types of parents expect their child to behave appropriately and obey parental rules. But the authoritarian parents also expect their child to behave blindly without question. That is, they expect their child to blindly obey them without questioning them. But in contrast, the authoritative parents use reasoning and allow a give and take discussion. So in the authoritative one, that is the first case, they will allow the children to have a discussion, that is reasoning and give and take discussion is happening there. And in the second one, authoritarian parenting, they do not allow that, and they just want to obey the parents blindly without questioning them. So both these types of parents utilize high behavioral control, but only authoritarian parents, they also exert high psychological control over the children. And the third one, permissive or indulgent parenting, that is low demandingness and high responsiveness. So these types of parents are warm and nurturing ones. They may allow the children to get away with bad behavior also. The last one is uninvolved parenting, that is low demandingness and low responsiveness. So we can expect what they do, like they are neglectful parents, they do not pay attention to their children's well-being. So these are the 4 types of parenting styles. So, and we also know that no two individuals are same, and these kids are totally different. So different children need to be parented differently. There is difference between parenting style and parenting practice. parenting style is the emotional climate in which the parents raise their children. That is the parenting style. It is the emotional climate in which the parents raise their children. And parenting practice is a specific action that parents employ in their parenting. Parenting practice is a specific action that parents employ in their parenting. So the authoritative parenting style is the best parenting style among these four. Parents should adopt the same authoritative parenting style but different parenting practices according to their child's individual temperament. That is, the parents should adopt the authoritative parenting style but the parenting practices should be different according to their child's individual temperament. Now, positive parenting. The development of a positive psychology has brought new forms of effective discipline. Here we are discussing more about discipline. Positive discipline is based on minimizing the child's frustration and misbehavior rather than giving punishments. That is, instead of giving a child punishment, we should minimize the child's frustration and misbehavior. The main focus in this method is the golden rule, that is, treat others the way you want to be treated. Like, we should treat others like the way we want to be treated. Parents follow this when disciplining their children because they believe that their point will reach the children more effectively rather than the traditional discipline. The foundation of this style of discipline is encouraging children to feel good about them and building the parent's relationship with the child so that the child wants to please their parent. In traditional discipline, parents would install fear in their child by using shame and humiliation to get their point across. However, studies show that this type of punishment ultimately causes the children to have more psychological problems in their adolescence and adulthood. Physical and harsh punishments show the child that violence and negative treatments is acceptable in some circumstances, whereas positive discipline demonstrates the opposite. That is, the traditional discipline is following a method like installing a fear in the child by the parents or humiliating them to get their point to the children or giving punishments to them. So these type of things will create more issues to the children, like psychological problems in their adulthood and adolescence. And physical and harsh punishments, it will also cause violence and negative impact in the children. So the children will also think that having some harsh punishments and violence and negative attitudes are acceptable in some circumstances. So such a thought will be implemented in the child's thought. In positive discipline, the parents avoid negative treatment and focus on the importance of communicating and showing unconditional love. That is, in contrast to the traditional discipline, in positive discipline, the parents will avoid these negative treatments and they will be more communicating with their children and they will show more unconditional love. Other important aspects are reasonable and age-appropriate expectations. The parents should always expect expectations should be age-appropriate. That is, from infants we should expect something, from adolescents we should expect something, from adulthood we should expect something. We should not expect same throughout the age. Feeding healthy foods and providing enough rest, giving clear instructions which may need to be repeated, looking for causes of any misbehavior and making adjustments and building routines. So these are some of the factors in positive parenting. Children are helped by knowing what is happening in their lives. They should know what is happening in their life. Not only are the children taught to be open-minded, but the parents should demonstrate this as well. So as always, the children will be learning from what the parents do. It's like we should not just teach them, we should demonstrate them what they want to learn through us. So the next topic is best practices for cultivating positive discipline. The first one is talk and listen. As we know, children are unique. No two children are same. So these children are unique. Getting to know your own child and knowing what makes them angry or agitated can help you prevent angry or upsetting situations before they happen. Talking and listening to your child helps them to understand what's going on. So this is a really important one. Like um, if we clearly know our child, then we will know the reasons, like when they will get angry, when they will get agitated. So if we know that situations, we can clearly stop the occurrence of such kind of situations. Talking and listening to your child helps them to understand what's going on. So the some sub points are language. We should always try to use positive words. Um, we should tell our child what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. Like instead of saying don't make such a mess, we should try to say tidy up your toys please. This is an example of positive parenting. So instead of saying what should not do, we should emphasize on what they should do. Choose your tone. Your tone is a powerful tool. So we should be very careful about the tone, the voice, the volume and all. Next is listening. Your child is trying out his or her new language and needs to be heard. So we should encourage our child to talk to us. So we should sit beside them. They will find it easier to talk and listen to you if you are not standing over them. Next is feelings. Helps them find the words to tell you how they are feeling, even if that takes time. Explaining. If you have to say no, give your child a good reason and offer alternative. That is, whenever we say no to your child for any activity or anything, so we should always give them the reason why you say no, and we should give an alternative for that. For example, if your child needs a toy and he's crying for that, then we can say for example, Rahul is playing with that car now, let's find another one for you. So that is like giving an alternative without saying a no. Next is involve your child. Wherever possible, talk with them about the rules and what you expect from them. Be clear. So whenever we set rules, we should give a clear picture of what we expect from them. We should talk to the children. We should be clear about it. Next is discussion. As they get older, discuss the settings of rules with them. Tell them you love them and show them by smiling, cuddling and kissing them. Tell them when you are cross or when you are not happy with their behavior. They need to realize that it's a behavior you don't like and not them. So discussion is very important. Like whenever we don't like a particular behavior of the child, we should tell them that we are upset with that. Otherwise the children will think that they are unhappy with the child. So we should make it clear that we are not unhappy with the child, but with that particular behavior of the child. So discussion is important for that. The second one is play. Play is an important and enjoyable and children can learn a lot from it. Children need time to play on their own with others and with their parents, as long as they play safely. A few ideas for play might be painting, drawing and coloring. So that's the first point, that children enjoy creating works of art, and the messier the better. Second is water. Like washing up a bowl of water and a couple of cups or plastic jug can keep a kid busy for ages. Next is imagination. So we should not always keep the kids busy with teddies, dolls, and all. We should create a tea party or a zoo made up of all sizes and shapes of toys, or arrange a shop with unbreakable contents from your kitchen cupboards. So there should be some imaginations from your child's side. Next is keep it simple. So we should try to keep a box of toys, box of crayons, a box of play-doh handy, and make the most of the bath time for playing with a couple of cups and spoons. So we should keep everything simple, like arranged. So keep it simple. Next is join in. Once we are free, we should find some time to be with the kid, like and see what they are doing, what they are up to. So join with them. The third is understanding changes as they grow. Children's need and understanding changes as they grow and want and what might be expected of a 4-year-old. So the sub points are exploring. Your child find out about their world by touching, shaking, tasting, pouring, squeezing. So the list is endless. This is not naughtiness but the way of learning about their world. Make your home toddler proof by storing valuable and breakable away from your child so that they can explore safely. So that is exploring. So the child will explore their world through these factors like touching, shaking, tasting, etc. So we should create the home a toddler proof, that is by storing like breakables separate, non-breakables and playables separate. Second one is independence. Part of growing up your child will be pushing against the boundaries and becoming an individual. You can help them by letting them do as much for themselves as possible. So we should give the freedom to go outside the boundaries and let them do everything by themselves. Encouragement. Your child will learn what's okay to do from you. So give lots of praise and attention to good behavior. If you only pay attention to your child when they misbehave, they will learn to misbehave to get your attention. So that's also an important point, that we should encourage the child whenever they do something good, they exhibit a good behavior. Otherwise, the parents usually give attention when the child misbehaves. So the child will get a thought that they will get the attention from parents only when they misbehave. So to reduce that, we should give encouragement when they do positive things. Fourth is setting boundaries. Children needs clear rules, boundaries and routines. Second one, be consistent. Third, parents need to agree the rules. It will help the child if both parents take the same approach. That is, the father and mother should not be having two opinions. They should stick on to a single rule. Like they should agree to the rules. When you say no, means no. Keeping to this can be hard work, but if you have a few clear rules, it helps you and our children. That is, if we have set some rules, then we should always stick to that. We should not change that. If you make promises, keep them. Rules should be simple and clear. Keep to as few as rules as possible. Try one new routine at a time and get it working before moving to the next. So all these points are very clear. The next one, fifth, is rewards and notice good behavior. Sometimes it is easy to ignore your child when they are behaving well and only notice when they are misbehaving. Children love the parents' attention. If they have to behave badly to get it, they will. Give them lots of praise when they are behaving well rather than focusing on misbehavior. That is, as already mentioned in the last point, if you are not giving attention to the children when they behave good, to get the parents' attention, they will do more misbehaviors. So to avoid that, we should give more importance to the positive attitudes or the good characteristics of the children. So the points coming under these are: rewards do not have to be material things. That is, we should not buy things for the kids to make them happy. We can give them happy words or a good hug something like that. So the material things are not necessary. Real praise and encouragement is the best reward, as it can boost a child and build self-esteem and confidence. So that is, we should praise the child's good behavior, and we should encourage them to do the same in other situations. So that is the best reward that a child can get, and it will help to develop self-confidence and self-esteem within the child. Try not to stress over the little things. If you are praising things they are doing well and ignoring the small niggles, your child will learn that unacceptable behavior no longer gets them the attention. So we should try not to stress over the little things. Sixth one is build self-confidence. Building your child's self-confidence will help them to try out new things, make friends, and cope up with the upsets and problems they meet as they are growing up. So the points are: finding out. Give your child a chance to face new experience and challenges with your support. That is, we should give them the opportunity to face different situations and how to handle them, of course with our support and help. Second one is love. Tell your child you love them. It's great to smile, cuddle, and kiss them. Independence. Don't try to solve every problem of your child. Sorting it out for themselves can be a boost for their confidence. So independence is very important, because most of the parents will try to solve like every problems faced by the children. Instead of that, we should give them the chance for the children to sit and learn or study what is their problem, and let them find their own solutions, let them face it. So it will make the child independent, and it will boost their self confidence within them. Next is praise. As a general rule, try to give 5 times more praise than criticism, like criticizing less and praising more. We should practice that. Avoid comparisons. The main point: all children are unique. Don't compare your child to the other children and share that with the child. They will grow up to compare themselves unfavorably with others. So as a child, like mostly all parents will do that, like comparing their child with other child, like academic skills or social skills or anything, they will be comparing with other children. So that is a very bad thing, and we should avoid that. So if you do that, the child will grow up comparing themselves unfavorably with other people. The seventh is have realistic expectations and allow consequences. Children are children. They will be messy, noisy, and disobedient. So give them the freedom to take mistakes. Encourage the child to think for themselves and take responsibilities for their actions. So these points we have discussed before also. Same thing. Eighth point is when things are getting difficult, we should stay calm. If it is possible to stay calm, leave the child in a safe place and leave the room for a few minutes. Then this will give you breathing space to think. When you return, talk to your child about what has happened, how you will deal with it. Think about what happened, what set off the behavior, has it happened before, and what could be done differently. Ask for help and advice. Nobody gets it right all the time. So as a good rule, as a general rule, try and give 5 times more praise than criticism. Don't try to change too much at once. Take one tip and use it until you have worked it out, and then try another. So whenever things are getting difficult, one way is to sit calm in a place and think what has happened, and come back to the child and ask them what happened, what triggered to behave like that, has it happened before, like that. And then you can discuss with others to solve the problem or what should be done to make things correct and all. Always we should be correct, that is not possible. So it's always good to discuss with people and get advices to deal with it. Ninth one and the last one is be a good role model. Young kids learn a lot about how to act by watching their parents. The younger they are, the more cues they take from you. Before you lash out or blow your top in front of your child, think about this. Is this how you want your child to behave when angry? Be aware that you are constantly being watched by your kids. Children who hit usually have a role model for aggression at home. Model the traits you wish to see in your kids: respect, friendliness, honesty, kindness, and tolerance. Exhibit unselfish behavior. Treat your kids the way you expect other people to treat you. So, in this, we know that if we say and teach a kid, they will not learn, rather they will watch us. If we tell the child to behave properly and we are not behaving properly, they will be doing what we do. They are seeing us, they are imitating us. So instead of saying, we should demonstrate the behavior that we want to implement in our kids. So we should be a role model. They are seeing us and learning. And when a situation is wrong, or when our mood is not good, before lashing out or before getting angry, before opening your mouth with bad words, we should think how the children are watching or how they will behave when their mood will go off. So we should think that in our mind. And the traits that we want to see in our children, like respect, honesty, friendliness, tolerance, etc., we should model that traits and we should exhibit that to our kids. Treat your kids the way you expect the others to treat you. That's the point. The next topic is emotional attachment towards family members. So there is nothing like family. The people we are related by blood and by marriage are expected to be our closest members, our greatest sources of love and support. Too often, however, our interactions with family are filled with misunderstanding and resentment. Usually it happens. The feelings that binds us to the significant people in our lives is often called attachment. We all know that. What is attachment? In general use, we know what is attach. Attach means to tie, to fasten, or to connect one thing to another. Attachment is a mutual process. Therefore, it is important to think of parents being connected to children as well as children being connected to parents. So, this is a mutual process. Attachment is a mutual process. The way parents are attached to the children also should be attached to the parents. When children are emotionally attached to a community of individuals who care for them, they receive valuable support that helps them grow and develop. Through their adventures and attachment relationships, they learn about right and wrong. So, when they are socially connected to a group of people, they will learn more about right and wrong. They learn how to interpret various experiences. They are exposed to the society, so they will get various experiences. They learn social skills that help them maintain existing relationship and develop new ones. They learn to be both self-reliant and to work well with others. In short, they develop a variety of skills that are not easily learned through direct instruction. Social and emotional lessons are best learned through relationships. So, in this, we are saying that if a child is socially or emotionally connected to a society, it will help for the social interactions and also to learn what is wrong and what is right. And they're exposed to a lot of people, so they will get the chance to face a lot of different experiences. So it will help to develop their social skills, and it will help to be self-reliant and also to work with other people having different attitudes and behaviors. Now, family is where our first and strongest emotional memories are made, and that's where they keep appearing. And that is why the emotional intelligence, that is EQ, succeeds where other efforts at the family harmony fail. So emotional intelligence is very important. Active awareness and empathy, that is the ability to be aware accepting and permanently attuned to ourselves and others tells us how to respond to one another's needs. So family means the closest members, so we should know each other, their needs, and we should accept them, and an emotional intelligence, that is emotionally binding, should be very good. Ego is incredibly powerful in the family because it puts you in control of your relationship with parents and children, siblings, in-laws, and extended family. When you know how you feel, you can't be manipulated by other emotions, nor can you blame family conflicts on everyone else. Most of the techniques for improving family relationships are therefore centered or communicating your feelings to those you care about, as close relationship are centered around feelings. Without this intimacy or attachment, family contact becomes a burden because no one is comfortable spending that much time with a stranger. So, family means there should be the attachment, there should be the care, the love for each other. They should know each other, their needs, their passions, uh, and they should be accepted as who they are. So, without this intimacy or connection, the living in a family will be like a burden. If you want your family members to know and accept each other lovingly, you have to begin with your own emotional honesty and openness. That is very important, that within the family, within our own people, we should be open. We should be open. We should express our emotions honestly and openly. That is a very important point. When you do, suggestions offered below are transformed from familiar, reasonable advice to highly effective methods for bringing your family even closer. The following tips will lead you closer to the family and emotional intelligence. So, here are some of the tips for improving family relationships. First one is take care of your health if you hope to take care of anyone else. That is, we should be healthy enough to take care of others. Second one, listen if you expect to be heard. So if our words should be heard by others, we should have the patience to listen to other people. That is, listen if you expect to be heard. 3. Teach emotional choice. 4. Teach generosity by receiving as well as giving. Fifth, taking responsibility for what you communicate silently. Sixth, don't try to solve problems for your loved ones. 7. Make a lasting impression through actions. 8th one, acknowledge your errors to everyone. 9. Discover what each person's unique needs are. 10th, be generous in expressing love. So these are some of the tips for improving family relationships. So that was all about my class. Hope you all understood the content well. It's a simple content, I guess. So thank you.